Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think this is certainly, having been a former small business owner, that this is a very important hearing, given all the changes to health insurance in America right now under the Affordable Care Act, better known as Obamacare. And I'd like to ask each of the panelists if you could answer relatively quickly, but to basically say, under the pressures of the Affordable Care Act, do you think that self-insurance will grow in this new environment, and as a mechanism for small businesses to afford health insurance for their employees? Start with you, Mr. Ferguson.
Sure. Thank you, Congressman, for the question. To answer that, I think our view would be that we would predict a continued growth in the marketplace, although that growth will probably be somewhat moderate, just because, for reasons that some of us have talked about already, is stipulated self-insurance is not the best choice for all companies, particularly small employers. For some, it's a great choice. But what we're seeing in the marketplace, there's a lot of companies that are looking more at self-insurance, and as part of that process to evaluate whether that choice is right for them, many of them, as they sort of go through the process, realize, well, this may not be the right choice for us, so they don't go forward with that. But for companies that they have the financial viability, they have the sophistication to pursue this funding method, it is a good choice. So for that reason, since there's more interest generally, I think you are going to see a continued growth. But again, I don't see it as a wholesale migration. I think you're just going to see more companies gradually shift into the self-insurance marketplace.
Thank you. Ms. Frick?
I agree with Mr. Ferguson. I don't know that it would actually explode as far as all of a sudden a vast rush of people to come in to self-fund. The growing interest doesn't necessarily equate to a growing number of new self-insurance or stop-loss policies. Just as Mr. Ferguson indicated, you will have more people that are looking into it, doing the math, and as insurance professionals, that's our job, to help them determine the risks and advantages of every kind of funding mechanism available to them. So the increased interest is in something that's now newer to them than it has been before, or rather may be available to them than it has been before. You still see reinsurance carriers that would provide the stop loss behind it, still somewhat a little hesitant to come down into the market of under 100 or under 50, just because that market space is typically not very self-funded friendly from a risk standpoint.
Mr. Freya?
I guess my answer would be I hope so. But I belong to an organization called the Young Presidents Organization, and in that organization, we've had numerous talks about self-insurance, and actually, literally, one of the topics was about how to respond to Obamacare, and they were actually pointing towards self-insurance as a way to potentially mitigate the unknown costs that Obamacare may cause in terms of increased fully insured premiums. I think right now, especially right now, when you're looking at a situation where the fully insured providers have an unknown, certainly with this website problem and other issues, and of course with the issue here with people losing their coverage, they're not quite sure how they're going, what the premiums are going to be going forward. And I think right now self-insurance might be a great option for some people to mitigate that potential liability of increased fully insured plan premiums.
Thank you. Dr. Blumberg?
Because under the Affordable Care Act, price discrimination based on health status of a small group is prohibited nationally for the first time. The self-insurance becomes a more attractive option for firms that have more healthier than average risks in their firm. And so we do expect there to be an increase in self-insurance as a consequence, barring other intervention, either federally or at the state level. I will mention, too, that in terms of the uncertainty that one of the witnesses was mentioning The issues with the website really are very strongly unrelated to the vast majority of the small group insurance market, which will continue to, in the fully insured market, buy through brokers and agents as they have in the past, with some percentage going through the exchange. But the markets are merged between the exchange and the non-exchange small group market. And so anything that affects creates a segmentation of risk between the self-insuring firms and the fully insured firms affects the entire small group market.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.